This is the Dutch defense, but my intention is to play pawn to e5 if white plays pawn to c4, and you will see how that works. After c4, I'll go pawn to e5, and if pawn takes, I'll just develop my dark squad bishop. One cool thing about this position is white players mostly play knight f3 in this position. That's the top played move, and if that happens, I'll just gladly sacrifice my second pawn because I don't intend to take it back on the next move. I'll pre-move knight e7 so that if white takes, I then go ahead and win their queen like this. Pap. So this is what I intend to do. Again, this is only suitable for rapid blitz and bullet chess. Don't try this at home. By the way, there's a higher chance that after pawn to d4 and f5, my opponent may not play pawn to c4. Sometimes they go knight f3, not allowing me to go e5. So just to give you a heads up, if this happens, I'll just try to transpose back to the Mojana formation, which I covered in the video that has popped up in the card above, beginning with the move pawn to c5 on move number 2. And the whole idea is after d5, I now go knight f6. Why knight f6, not pawn to d6? Well, of course, I don't want to face the Staunton Gambit with pawn to e4, so knight f6 kinda stops pawn to e4 by white. If pawn to c4, well and good. I'll just finish my kingside development first, castle shot, before playing pawn to d6. The problem with playing pawn to d6 immediately is that white can play bishop g5 in this position, if I'm not mistaken. And say if you play pawn to g6, now they will be happy to mess up your pawn structure on the kingside. Nevertheless, we have an option. In this particular position, it is safe to play pawn to e6. It is also safe to play e5. Going back to the check, Benoni. Obviously, if white takes, you take back with your last squad bishop. Not to mention that knight e4 is also playable in this position. So I'm not saying pawn to d6 is really bad, but we just want to stick to our Mojana formation plan. So the reason why we start with this move, pawn to g6, is that if white plays bishop g5, now we can simply go bishop g7 without having to worry about doubling up our pawns. Perhaps knight e4 also works in this particular position, just attacking that bishop. But what are we doing? What if they play bishop f4, or just going back to c1? So pawn to g6 just helps us to be quick in development on the king side, and after we do that, that's when we play pawn to d6. And how do we develop on the queen side? Obviously, there are a number of things that we can do. d6, knight b7, a6, rook b8, pawn to b5. That's plan number 1. Plan number 2, you can go knight a6, planning to go knight b4. If a3, you switch your plan, knight a6, knight c7, again a6, rook b8, pawn to b5. Yeah, d6 can be featured in that move sequence whenever you have a chance. So after we play knight f6, what if white plays bishop g5 immediately, not allowing us to, defend our knight with our bishop? Just like I said, you have knight e4 in this particular line, avoiding the trade, or you can play queen b6 so that if bishop takes, you take back with your queen. So I do understand that the game I'm about to play might not go as planned. Remember that I intend to play the reverse Williams Gambit, where I expect my opponent to go pawn to c4. But if they don't do that, and let's say they go knight f3, I will just transpose to the Mojana formation. And I've seen some people playing bishop f4, by the way, in this position, which is quite annoying. Well, once again, I discovered that you can still play the Mojana formation even against this London setup. But first, let me show you one nasty trap that you can try besides pawn to c5. You first go h5. Why? Why playing this bad move? Remember, this is in rapid, blitz, or bullet, while your opponent doesn't have enough time to think. The moment your opponent plays pawn to e3, just know you have many chances of winning due to pawn to e5. Wow. So the whole point is, if bishop takes, you now go pawn to d6. Where's that bishop going? Whatever they go, say bishop f4, now you go pawn to g5. So it's just a matter of time before trapping that bishop. You're going to trap it like this. I guess you never knew this trap existed. Anyway, after you play pawn to e5, if they choose to take with a pawn, again you can just go pawn to g5. Point is, whatever they do, you're going to trap their dark squad bishop. White needs to be clever and accept that they're going to lose this bishop anyway. So they should do something like bishop e2 or bishop c4, if I'm not mistaken. Say bishop e2, maybe counterattacking something. But after this, if you want to play an aggressive game, you can still take. There's nothing wrong with that, because at the end of the day, you may survive somehow. Yeah, so with this line, you just have to be a little bit careful and prepare for war. There's knight c3, you go bishop h6, so that if knight d5 comes, you back up. Queen d5 may be played, maybe intending to checkmate. You just remember to go rook h7. I don't know what else. Knight f3, you go pawn to d6, or better king f8. But in the bishop f4 line, if you just want to play it safe, you can still rely on the Mujana formation with the move pawn to c5. Of course, they play pawn to e3 most of the times, but if d5 happens, you still continue with your plan, knight f6, just to avoid pawn to e4. Remember, if pawn to c4, this is even safe. Now you go pawn to g6, you finish your plan. But in the London version of this, it's okay to start with pawn to d6. Why? Because at least we are 90% sure that our opponent won't move the same piece twice in the opening stage. They won't play bishop g5 just yet. Even if they play bishop g5 anyways, we always have knight e4 in this particular position since we don't have queen b6. So they'll play something else like knight c3, and this is when you play pawn to g6. Wait a second. In these kinds of positions, when your knight is on f6, note that white can't be aggressive with moves like h4 and h5 due to this. So they will play standard moves like e3, and now you go bishop g7, you castle short and start doing whatever I showed you. Knight d7, rook b8, pawn to b5, or knight s6, knight c7, a6, rook b8, pap, pawn to b5. In this particular position, you can also get rid of your opponent's dark squared bishop if you want to. One last sequence, by the way, I just want to prepare myself enough. If knight c3 pops up instead of bishop f4 or pawn to c4 or knight f3, I have an option to transpose this back to the stonewall defense. You know what the stonewall defense is? This is where you just put your pawn on d5, you go pawn to e6, knight f6, bishop e7 or bishop d6, castle short. So you are basically playing the stone wall with black pieces. But one more time, if you want to surprise your opponent, you can always resort to the Mujana formation with pawn to c5. Anyway, the standard move here is knight f6 to stop pawn to e4 once again. And then on the next move, if bishop f4, you can try the Mujana formation or just play standard chess. Bishop g5 is a problem in this line, and this is why you'd always want to go back to the stonewall structure, so that if bishop takes, you take back with your e-pawn. This is considered to be very solid for black. Pawn to e3, you play bishop e6, and this bishop acts more like a big pawn that supports your f and your d pawn. Bishop d3, here I would play knight c6 or queen d7. If bishop b5, I have c6 anyways, or even knight c6. You don't have to memorize moves. They play knight ge2, maybe preparing for these, and now I can go knight c6. That's the plan. If a3, maybe stopping knight b4. Now I go bishop d6. After castle short, also castle short. They might play pawn to a4. Now the plan is very simple. I just have to align my rooks along the e file and start pressurizing white's e pawn. I do this all the time if I just want to be serious and win some more games on Lichess. And hey, it only takes 2 seconds to subscribe. By doing so, we are growing this community, and you are telling YouTube that we like this guy. YouTube will start recommending my videos to a larger audience. I don't need the money for these YouTube videos. I just need your love and support. That's how we're going to beat the YouTube algorithm. Let's go. Right, so playing against a 2454 rated opponent. Let's give them a pawn. So you know the whole idea is to surprise them with the reverse Williams Gambit. I'm now attacking the f2 pawn. The top played move in this position is knight f3, after which I'm going to pre-move d6 and knight e7. Yep. So everything is moving according to plan, and let's remove that. Let's see what my opponent is going to do. Oh. Okay. Things didn't go as planned. So if pawn takes, I'm just going to take back with my bishop. Okay, my opponent is being solid. I guess I need to take some time and think. With bishop f4, I guess I just need to attack that bishop. If bishop g3, I'm going to trap it. There we see bishop g5. Not to worry about it. Queen d7. If pawn takes, I'll just take back with my bishop. In fact, let me pre-move this. Anytime I want to, I can castle short. So bishop d6 or bishop takes d6. I still feel comfortable in this position. By the way, this is a 2400 rated player. Pressing. So I still need to be a little bit careful. These guys are tricky. Let's get rid of that London bishop. Now I still have a bishop pair. This is something that you're going to see in my reverse Williams Gambit very often. Bishop e2, castle shot. Who is ahead in development? I don't know. I guess it's me. Bishop f3, not allowing me to develop my last squad bishop, I guess. Due to this, going to lose my rook. Oh, wait a second. The other idea is to go bishop d5, pin my queen to the king. So king h7 makes a lot of sense. That if bishop d5 comes, I can lift my queen. King h7 also keeps an eye on the g6 square. So my opponent is doing everything to disturb my plan, but hanging a lot of pieces. That pawn was free. I don't mind. Bishop g6 check will just be a 1-0 move. Yep. I can just play king h8 if I want to. Yeah, the problem with king g7 is I will invite this queen trade. So king h8, queen g8 was going to, you know, invite queen d5 check. I don't see anything here. I can just continue with my normal development. Oh, wait a second. Did I just hang my pawn? There are just too many pieces, you know, surrounding it. Let's attack the knight and probably capture it on the next move. I have a check. So I don't mind losing my f5 pawn this time. I can still take, right? I mean, if I take on c3, white can just retreat their bishop. So, pap, get rid of the bishop first, and then take the knight. So that I will have 1,000 checks. Oh, wait a second. After pawn takes, oh, that's a tricky move now. I need to be careful. Oh wait, I don't need to be careful. I have discovery check first. There's no checkmate on the king side. I can just hide my king on g8. So I better just go for an attack. I'll just take if rook c1. And that'll be checkmate. What was my opponent thinking? Okay, this is clearly winning. There's nothing white can do to stop the upcoming checkmate, I guess. Even if they do a little discovery, I'll just play king g8 and I'll be safe. Okay, yeah, there's absolutely nothing that my opponent can do in this position. Maybe rook d2, but still I have a mate in 2. Yeah, this is a mate in 2. Wait. Take the pawn and think later. Check. Should I win? Should I capture the rook or this? Nah, check. I'm trying to find a way to checkmate my opponent very quickly. Wait a second. There's this discovery. Check. Check. At this stage, I'm just pre-moving since I'm low on time. I need to win the other rook, if need be. Let's do that. Let's check this pawn. Check. I don't have much time to think. Let's take the other pawn. Check. give a check. Another check. Oh, this is bad. So the idea is not just to give white some time to play. Check. Now this will be bicycle mate. Bicycle mate, pop. And look at these two. What are they doing on the king side? This was great. Anyway, so that's how you play the reverse Williams Gambit. Not every time that your plan is going to go well, but in case things don't go your way, don't give up. This video was sponsored by all of our paid members on Patreon. These are the guys who support Casper Chess financially. In return, we give them extra study materials and other premium content on Patreon to thank them in style. Not to mention that all of our patrons are at liberty to make video requests and ask any chess related questions. You can join free membership and pay later if you want through the link in the comment section down below.